Welcome back, everybody, to the Invitational, and more specifically to the beginning of the finals with Run 1, Group 1, taking place in Undertaker. If you've seen the teaser, you know that the finale is a trio of trios. We're going to take a quick flyby look at Undertaker. This particular course of the day is sticking to a single obstacle group. It is, as always, 6 gates. After a quick overview, let's take a look at the individual gates. Gate 1, just a short climb up from the start. A little wrap to the left around through Gate 2. Another little wrap around to get to Gate 3, which is on a bit of a drop-off. Gate 4 brings us over the ridge. Gate 5 is in a little bit of a ravine. And Gate 6, not shown really by the photo, is sort of a terrible side hill situation. We will see how the competitors manage. Speaking of competitors for this round on Undertaker, we have the group. This is Group 1, composed of a juxtaposition of styles, starting with Argentum the Phoenix, followed second by the LCG MST CFX-W, that is Blue Sky High, and closing out Group 1, what was once an SCX10 Colonel Mustard. And much as any of these three would love to head directly out to the course, they must first, of course, face the spinner. So here they are lined up in a trio format, and the spinner is going to do its slow business as it moves here around. Who will it stop on? We'll stop on Blue Sky High, who will be running first. An inauspicious beginning for Blue Sky High. That is a tough place to start. Another spin of the spinner to determine second and who will be running last for Group 1. And it looks like we're coming to a stop on Colonel Mustard for running second. Argentum draws the lucky draw to run last. So, of course, up first, Blue Sky High, the LCG MST CFX-W. That's a lot of letters. And he is going to take this slowly and gingerly because he knows that the new structure with cumulative points ultimately helps, because you can have a bad day and it might not spell the end, but I think any of the competitors would prefer not to start on a bad day. An unfortunate placement for camera 2. I'm sure most people wouldn't notice. That's why I make sure here in the booth to point that out, so that hopefully the members of the camera crew will do a little bit better job on camera placement. Now, in their defense, when the camera positions were initially chosen, and they're not the greatest, but when they were chosen, it was overcast, so there was no shadow of that camera there. But we will press forward, much as Blue Sky High is doing now. The first competitor to approach Gate 3, which is a fairly sheer drop-off in combination with a less than optimal camera placement. We've got a lot of rounds to shoot, so this one's the first one out of the box. There's no guarantee it's going to be a home run. This guy High is being very tentative here. His nose end is hung up, and his CG behavior is a little different from everyone else's. He has quite a lot of suspension travel. For a 1.9, his tires are very tall. He's not, by the truest definition of it, an LCG, as he has a divorced transfer case. So the transfer case moved, but the gearbox did not. He doesn't let that keep him down. Struggling a little, making every effort not to strike Gate 4. Using a lot of four-wheel steer there to come through. Now he has a decision to make for how to attempt the let's call it the bridge between Gate 4 and Gate 5. Took a long think on that one. And he is indeed going to wrap it down around onto flat ground. The start-finish, he's not, the start and finish, the markers are not considered gates. So competitors still seem to tend to avoid them as if there are points associated with them, but they are not. This is a 6-gate competition. This start and finish are just there for the start and finish. This is kind of what was anticipated would happen when approaching this ravine here. It's not really wide enough. Let's see how Blue Sky High manages here. Gonna get quite a bit of Lexan noise. He's good so far, but a little window grab of the marker. Not surprisingly. What is surprising, I think, is that he's managed to keep it mostly bottom side down. That is a tough approach there. Now he's exiting out onto the side hill, and there's really no good way to do this, particularly when it takes a bump to get your angled skid up over the rock and onto the side hill. This angle shows, I think, relatively well how angled this truly is. He's parked in quite a three-wheel motion. He's attempting a bit of a crab maneuver here to come across. But I can say that his low side front tire is below the marker, which unfortunately this camera is low enough to the ground that the marker cannot be seen behind the rocks in between. Blue Sky High is about to take what I would consider an ill-advised reverse. I don't think the reverse here helped him at all. But he was attempting to line himself back up better for some sort of better approach. And at least got pretty fortunate there with that roll. His CG of this group, I would have to say his CG is the highest. He lives up to his name of being Sky High. As he genuinely, he does not have any added weight at all outside of what is in his wheels. He's attempting a cyclone here, which is tough, as his body is pretty square. But he managed a cyclone out of that one. He's pretty dusty. It would have been wonderful to get that on camera. Same process again. Much better look here at the technique. Much easier if you have something large like a Defender shell. This is a fake Jeep, so it doesn't really want to roll over. He's already struck one marker here, so now he's going particularly high. Clips the upside marker, but did manage to get through the plane of the gate. The finals, we were watching things a little more closely in terms of strikes and what is considered a gate clearance. So Blue Sky High here, coming straight towards the camera to finish his run in run one. And we'll see how he did at the end. We are now going to move on to second up on the day. The rig being most asked to do what he wasn't built for, which is Colonel Mustard. It has long been my contention that the SCX10 is a trail truck that is a passable rock crawler. This particular SCX10 has very little SCX10 left in him. There is a mess of aluminum and brass due to frequent axle breakages. His panhard bar attaches to his passenger side front kingpin, and it actually seemed to help keep his front end a little more planted than the stock configuration. See, he gets quite a bit of droop through those tires, but we'll keep it on the ground. He's a bit of a snappy roller. The roll is somewhat unpredictable. This could be in part due to the fact that neither his tires nor foams were chosen specifically for him. He does not have a dedicated set of tires. I'm going to take a little instant replay look here. It was clean. In first glance, it looked much closer. He was very far to that side. Too far to that side. You can see it, but you can hear it. He is fully turtled. No getting out of it. Reset to the gate. We have this early in to run one. We've got our first rollover. And it's actually a little bit surprising that it came from the Colonel. And, well, I mean, I guess technically Blue Sky Eye did roll over several times, but he managed to get out of it. The Colonel landed in a spot where he could not be extricated. That was a torque roll there. There's definitely something going on inside that gearbox, which has not been disassembled since the rig was initially constructed. And the slipper clutch, which you will get to witness in more detail coming up right here, because when the Colonel gets stuck, the Colonel has to take it very slow here. You'll hear a little slow acceleration point. He actually drove in betwixt the legs of the tripod. Here's what I mentioned. Oh, listen to that. When a front tire gets bound up, it's just full engagement of the slipper, and it doesn't have to get bound up very much. I don't even think it's getting full, like a good full wrinkle on the sidewall before the slipper just completely lets loose. Now, the Colonel is a bit shorter, so he manages to get through 5 here. Another little stick of the clutch. He's not going to have to run again until run 2 at Leviathan, so we've got a minute to take a look at what's going on inside. We'll now get to see how the Colonel manages here on the side hill. And while he's only the second competitor to face it, I think it's safe to say that the first competitor to face it did not have a particularly good time here. The Colonel's weight and attitude is keeping him pretty low. You saw the rear end go loose before the front end. Excellent cyclone there by the Colonel, but unfortunately put that big full-width front bumper right up against a rock. He knows that he has a reverse to use, so he's going to opt for that one there. And I believe he did clip a marker on the way down. See, much more composed through there. It's strange. It feels strange to say that, but indeed he was. He took a passage through Gate 6 a lot easier than Blue Sky High did. Which will bring us to the final competitor here in Group 1, Run 1. Argentum, the VS4-10 Phoenix, the least modified vehicle in the entire fleet. He was assembled. He was given wheels and tires and electronics. His body was painted a single color, and that was it. He has nothing in the way of added weight. He has no upgrades unless you count aluminum motor plate, standoffs, and bearing carriers, which now, from what I understand, come standard on the straight axle VS4-10 Phoenix. So he's going to move gently and tenderly here through gates 1, 2, heading on towards 3. His Vanquish click has gotten, let's call it, significant. It sounds like someone's running a teletype machine in there. But he has quite a lot of steer angle, and he saw that he was going to potentially take the same route down that the Colonel did, and luckily aimed himself down in such a way as to basically nose wheelie out of it. The Tusks on this particular day were doing, I would say, pretty well. Conditions sort of lended to them, perhaps even more than to the Ruptures. So the Phoenix was having a fairly straightforward time of this, and he also had the benefit of watching 2 runs go before him. There's a happy 4S power boost there. There will be no spoilers, but there will be an upcoming incident where a 4S bump proved to have a little too much sauce in it. So we're coming down, dropping into the ravine. The Phoenix body is tall, and you will see why that is relevant here. Did you see it? Because in the instant replay, there it is. He gave it a little head knocker, just the tiniest. I mean, he breezed it. That might have been lighter. Oh, there was a 4S, and look at that. But so much power. So I mean, there's no replacement for displacement. And Argentum has a decent amount of power. So now he's going to try to line himself up for 6. A little dig to move the front end over there. He's taking a pretty good line, I would say. But he has it diagonal enough to keep all 4 wheels down, but I think he might have it just up a little bit too high. He got through and clipped the gate as he was dipping down. So his rear tires were already past. He basically got himself too steep. And then competitors, for whatever reason, still treat the start-finish as a pointed gate. Takes a nice slow movement. Good look at the steer angle there on the Vanquish. And he's through there. And that will end Group 1 of Run 1. That's just going to leave us with the usual, the scores, which at this point should be all too familiar to everyone. We use the same thing. 1 reverse, that's 2 points. He struck 2 gates, 7 points apiece, 14 points there. He did not roll over, so he finishes with a total of 16 points. The Colonel did pretty well, but could have done better. 1 reverse. He likewise struck 2 gates, but he did have a rollover, so just take Blue Sky High and add 10 for 26 for the Colonel, which leaves just Argentum, who did not use a reverse, never needed one, did indeed strike 2 gates, 5 and 6, but did not roll over. So at the end of the day, he comes out with 14 points. So for that group, honestly, it was closer than I would have thought. There's how the Grand Finals leaderboard sits after just 1 run, 1 group, Run 1, Group 1. If we were calling a winner at this point in the Invitational, it would be Argentum the Phoenix. Though I'm sure Argentum, who's a bit of a seasoned veteran to these sorts of things, understands that there's a lot more wheeling to do. So no winners nor losers were chosen today. We just know who's in the lead for the moment. After Group 1 in Run 1 will be ongoing, but not going on forever. Competition that is the Invitational.